Tony D and Little Joan with a screenwriter's rant on the lesson about a writer who has a terrible secret, and he hires an assistant who may or may not be the secret, or he exposes the secret, and then somebody died. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Billed as a thriller. It's a thriller about a writer, so I kind of want to see this. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't know if it can strike a chord. It's called The Lesson. All right, let me get right into the breakdown, because I started doing a take of this and then I hit the wrong button. I had to start over. So the first act, he's being interviewed, the writer, and he's the most influential living writer of the time. And so he's being interviewed, and they ask him about his son, the death of his son, how that impacted him. And he's like, it didn't impact me at all. It's kind of a weird defensive response. And then it cuts to, I don't know, this guy, he got a job being the writer's assistant. Because, I don't know, he's older and he can't write. So he's the assistant, and he gets to know, this is the second act now, he gets to know the family. And they're a little odd and weird. But they seem nice at first. But the longer he stays, the more he realizes there's something going on here. The first son died, or was he murdered, or what's the deal? And then he works for the writer, and then the writer is like, no, this book seems like the ending is different from the beginning. It's almost like two different people wrote it. So you think, well, maybe the son, it was some sort of genius and wrote the book, and then the father killed him and finished the book or something. Or there's an allusion to that there was an assistant before, and maybe he hired an assistant to get him to write his book, and then killed him and wrote it as his own. But he gets to know everybody, gets a little too close to the people in the house. And then by the third act, I don't know, I think he tries to kill him, but then maybe he might be having an affair with the wife too. I don't know. He doesn't succeed in killing him, I don't think. And either the writer dies, or the assistant manages to get away, maybe to write his own book. And either the writer dies and the killer's exposed, and it was the writer all along. Maybe one of the other characters. I kind of doubt it. Or maybe he was hiding the true culprit, which was the wife or the other son. And he goes on to write his book. And he gets some sort of revenge in writing the book, I guess. I don't know. I kind of like the movie because it is centered around a writer, and I like movies about writers. I can relate to it more. It sort of hits me better. But I think for most people, this probably isn't going to be much of a hit, in terms of striking a chord. Because when you talk about famous writers, the most influential writer of our day, writers in this country anyway, aren't really revered anymore. They're just not revered. I don't think. A few of them are, kind of. I mean, a few of them are famous. Like Stephen King is famous. I don't know if he's revered, maybe in certain circles. And that's not a slam against him. It's just, I don't think he's considered serious in the academic world, in the literature world that this guy is portraying. I think this is Daryl McCormack. He's very good in the role. He's very snooty. Oh, I'm a writer, you see. But that's more of playing off a movie trope. It's not reality anymore. Maybe that was, I'd say 50 years ago. Now, nobody reads. And I know that from personal experience, believe me. Just trying to get people to read my stupid books. It's tough. It's really tough. A lot of people just don't read. And then you have this image of people that do read, And now, back in the day, if you went to college and you read a lot of books, you were considered smart. These days, there is a group of people who read a lot of books, but they're not smart. They're stupid. They just read things because they think they should read them. And a lot of them are just competing on Twitter to see how many books they can read. And I think that's not necessarily a good thing. If you're reading a bunch of crap, I don't think it's going to do you any good. I don't think that's going to make you smarter. Anyhow, it's just that 50 years ago, famous writer, that could have been something. It could have been like, I don't know, Norman Mailer or someone like that. Hunter S. Thompson, who would have been way more fun to model this character after. But now that just, I don't know. I don't really see that now. I don't see writers being interviewed. Hardly at all. Just, they're not considered valuable at least in American society. Now, maybe in Europe it's a little different. There's a handful of writers. I don't know, the internet has changed things too. It just feels a bit tropey, like the movie's based on that trope. The trope of he's an influential writer. Salman Rushdie, he's an influential writer. He'd be a good way to characterize a famous and influential writer who was in danger. But the sort of generic English upper crust guy, I don't know if that guy exists anymore. I don't know if he exists in the same way he existed when this trope meant something. So it feels like the movie's kind of based on that, and that, I think, weakens it to some degree. But that being said, I kind of like the setup because it's, about family secrets and betrayal. And I think the end result will be that somebody else, of course, wrote the writer's great work. Possibly the son who died, and then maybe he wrote it. I don't know if the son maybe he was handicapped in some way, and that's why he died swimming, I think. Hit his head on a dive or something. Or maybe one of them killed him or let him die, so they could keep a secret. Or there's an illusion in the trailer that he had an assistant before, so maybe it's the assistants he's murdering because they're nobodies, and then maybe the other assistant, he killed the other assistant, but nobody cared about him, and he's lying on the bottom of the lake. Nobody's even looking for him. Just kind of disappeared, and the writer took his words and made millions of dollars. Maybe. I would hope, since another writer wrote this, that they would drill down a little bit in the creative process, and it kind of looks like they are. So I'm kind of biased for the movie. I really want the movie to kind of delve into that a little bit, because I would love to see that in a movie. I would love to see two guys trying to hash out a book, and then maybe they get mad at each other, and they talk about the writing process a little bit, and in a way that's not movie superficial completely. It kind of has to be, but not completely. So I don't know. I would probably see this on a rental, mainly because there's a writer as the main character. And my hope would be the writer would come out looking good at the end, but I suspect he's going to be the bad guy. He's either going to be a dupe, a phony who didn't write his own book, or he's going to be the killer. I think it's very unlikely he comes out clean like, oh my God, I should have never hired that assistant. He was a murderous psychopath. I think the assistant is kind of the main character, and I'll say the assistant, Daryl McCormack is really doing great as the writer. The wife is pretty good. The son is very shy. If the assistant's supposed to be the main character, he's kind of dull in the trailer. They didn't really give him any good lines in the clips. it's more that the intensity is around the other characters. But a lot of times the lead character is just there to be handsome. So I don't know. So maybe he's just there to observe the events mostly and try to survive. Yeah, so it's kind of a tough call. I mean, it's a Bleecker Street production. Tend to do kind of low budgety stuff, but sometimes they do kind of interesting things. So I would give it a chance. I think it would be watchable. I wouldn't get my hopes up too high. Might be a surprisingly cool, twisty thing. It's also hard to promote things that are thrillers, I think, with twisty endings without kind of giving away the ending, because it kind of all comes down to the ending. So either the ending is like, oh man, I never saw that coming, and like you can't advertise that. You can't put that in a trailer. So the rest of the movie kind of leads you down the garden path. You kind of got to promote that, and that's a real problem. But the characters seem a little tropey, and that would be, I think you need a little more, I don't know, a little more detail on these characters, make them a little more interesting than just, I'm a very famous writer, you see. I'm the most influential and everyone loves me. But beyond that, how bad could it be? And that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more base takes. Tomorrow, I will be at Cassiano's in Hamilton, New Jersey for the food truck show. Now, yesterday I said it was from 10 to 2. I thought about that last night while I was sleeping. Yeah, it's 4 to 9. I was like, do I have to get up early on Saturday? Wait a minute, I don't think I do. Yeah, it's 4 to 9 during food time, during dinner. So come on out to Hamilton on Friday night. We'll hang out and we'll talk books. And I won't be the snooty writer, although if you ask me, I'll be the snooty writer. Anyhow, hope to see you there, and we'll see you in the next one.